Okay, this is week 3, and we are going to do 2 experiments this week. Ground temperature, sorry, I'm laughing again, and blending. And the first experiment we're going to do is on the ground temperature. It's a quick experiment, and the purpose of this experiment is to determine why desert animals spend their day underground. So why do you suppose an animal would make a home in a burrow? You'll have some questions to talk through with the kids. You know, when you say the word desert, what comes to mind? Possible answers: hot during the day, cold at night, cactuses, that kind of thing. Can you tell me any animals that live in the desert? And just some more questions about that. Some animals you can think of that live in burrows. Possible answers are rabbits, bears, chipmunks, prairie dogs, gophers, lizards, and have the kids have fun with this, just thinking of animals. Your research, because you're going to go through the scientific method for this, so your research part is going to be basically you're finding out how do we already know, what do we already know about the topic, and what do we need to learn. So we're going to do background research. You could also be using your journal here, and as you're talking with these kids, have them practice writing in their journal some of this stuff and taking notes and crossing out if they want, so they can write down their things if the kids are older. But what have we already learned? We've learned that some animals make burrows. What do we need to find out? Just kind of, you know, what does a burrow look like? Maybe define some terms, the difference between warm-blooded or cold-blooded animals, and how they regulate their temperature. So all of this is your pre-discussion to help them get ready because the experiment goes quick. Your next is going to be your hypothesis. So what is the kid's educated guess and what will happen? The hypothesis help them think through this, and what was the temperature this morning when he came in? Was it comfortable? What do we do when we're cold? Like we put on a sweater, or we are going to go in where it's warm, that kind of thing. So leading them to what can animals put more clothes on? Yes or no, they grow more fur or they shed it or that kind of thing. And what are some other things that they do when they're hot and cold? We're going to get to the point where, do you think that if you had a hole in the ground, do you think it would be hotter or colder? And have them think through this and make some hypothesis and mark their hypothesis in their science journal. Another hypothesis they can do is by how many degrees. Do you think it's going to drop like 10 degrees or 20 degrees? And then when you're done with that, you can start with your experiment. We're going to think of all of the tools or the things that we need, all of your materials that you're going to need. So we're going to need a thermometer, we're going to need a trowel to dig a hole, we're going to need the timer, and hopefully it's a sunny day. If it's not, it's fine. In a shady day too. You can just talk about the difference between sun and shade. Then what steps are you taking to observe the temperature? Point out the steps as you complete them, and the kids can take notes as they observe. So example, digging the hole, the ground is moist or not, it's dry, whatever, it's hard, you're in a drought, whatever the thing is. Then you're going to dig the steps to the experiment is you're going to go outside, you're going to dig a hole large enough to put the thermometer in. You're going to try to look for a sunny spot if possible. Then you're going to cover the hole with the towel so if there's no sun, or you might be able to even put if it's a chunk of grass, right back on it. And then you're going to put the second thermometer right next to it. And then you could set the timer, or you just want to at least give it 5 minutes or more to see for the thermometer to take the temperature. So you're going to do this, then we're going to take a break and go do the other experiment, but I'll finish this one before I talk about that one. So you're going to take the long break, go do another experiment, and when you come back, you're going to look for the next step in the scientific method is the analysis results. So record the temperature, ask kids what they think of the results, talk about why it was what they thought, or maybe it wasn't what they thought. Was the ground cooler or not? The answer is the temperature in the of the ground was colder than the one above ground. So it's cooler underwater. And then the conclusion, the reason why: the sun's rays heat the air and all the materials that they touch, including the thermometer. So underneath the ground, it's not hitting the sun, and so it is much colder or cooler down there. So there's a little bit on here that you can read about the conclusion. I also have some images that I don't have here, but there's some images of animals that burrow that you can point to. If you have extra time, you could draw animals that burrow in here in your journal, and then you could do that when you get back. So that's the first experiment. The second experiment is blending, and this is also talking about animals. Before you get out there, I will have everything set up for you outside. It's another outdoor one. There will be 3 squares roped off so that we are going to throw pipe cleaners in there and we'll see which ones blend and which ones are easier. So I will have, a square marked off so that you can use it, and there'll be string in there. Everything will be set for you. You will have 6 various colored of pipe cleaners, 3 browns, greens, and bright colors cut into 1/2-inch pieces. So you'll have about 120 total pieces, and the older classes can count and compare to see which colors they like. They'll have a little baggie, and then if you want, the tutor can scatter them beforehand, and then the kids can come and try to find them and see which ones are easier or harder. You can have a timer to give yourself, maybe it can be fun, like 30 seconds to find them, and you could, experiment with the different time, it takes to find the blended ones. So back to the scientific method, which we're always pointing back to. What is the question and purpose? The purpose of the experiment is to demonstrate how the color of animals can protect them from predators and even help predators sneak up and catch their prey. So they have some questions on here to get them thinking about animals that change their color. In the movie Tangled, the little lizard with Rapunzel is a chameleon and he changes color. So there's some questions about that. You can talk about different animals that you can think of. And it's all in here, you can read it. So next we get to the research. What do you already know about camouflage and what do we still need to learn? Kind of background research about camouflage. I also have some pictures of some animals that camouflage, like a stick, the walking stick thing, and there's an owl camouflaged into a tree, and you'll have the pictures with you. Then your hypothesis. What is your educated guess on what will happen? Have them write down their hypothesis of which pipe cleaners are the easiest or hardest to find, which ones, sometimes they think it's just the green one, but actually it's the ones that are sometimes brown. It's plain green are easier to find. And when you think of in the Army, they're not all just wearing plain green, they have green and the camouflage is brown and black. So, materials, like I said, you'll have the pipe cleaners, a string, everything will be marked off, timer, and a baggies. That will all be provided for you. And then your analysis results is how does this benefit animals, and your conclusion. That's it.